Hello everyone, it's Alma from AgriKids and welcome to another AgriKids Farm Safe Story Time. I do hope you're all ready to take another trip to Riverside Farm to see what Tom, Sarah and Mr. Brambles are up to today. In today's story, we're going to find out what happened when Tom got a little bit too close to the red tractor. It was autumn on Riverside Farm. The leaves were turning brown and the days were getting shorter. All the apples, pears and blackberries are ready to be picked and baked into delicious pies and tarts. Autumn is a yummy time of year. Tom and Sarah were outside playing football with Meg the sheepdog. Or at least they were trying to play football with Meg the sheepdog, but Meg kept running away with the ball. "Come back, Meg, come back," called Sarah as Meg charged around the corner with the ball in her mouth. Tom and Sarah ran after her. Meg was so excited to finally have the ball that she didn't see poor Mammy, who was carrying an enormous basket of washing, and she ran straight into her. The basket of clothes flew up into the air and landed all over the ground. Vests and pants and socks rained down on top of poor Mammy, who was sitting on the ground, covered in clothes, a pair of Tom's tractor socks hanging off her head. The children giggled. Mammy looked a little bit silly with the socks hanging off her head. "Is there nothing else you two could be doing as I try to hang out the washing?" said Mammy. After the children helped her tidy up, Mammy handed them each a bucket. "I've got something that you two could do that would be very, very useful. There's loads and loads of blackberries on the bushes. I want you guys to fill your buckets with as many as you can. If you do that, we can make some blackberry tarts later." The children loved blackberry tarts. But remember, said Mammy, only pick the black ones. Those red ones will give us all a tummy ache. The children took the buckets and grabbed their scooters and headed for the blackberry bushes. Maybe they would see their little friend, Mr. Brambles, the hedge sprite. Dum-de-dum-de-diddly-doo. Mr. Brambles was very, very busy. In fact, autumn is a very busy time for hedge sprites. They have to change all the leaves from green to brown and ripen all the berries and the fruit in the orchards. Using his magic twig and a blackbird's feather, Mr. Brambles tipped and tapped and zipped and zapped all the berries until they were black and very juicy. Said Mr. Brambles, "We have loads of berries this year, loads and loads to feed the birds. And I'll still have some left over so me and Mrs. Brambles can make some yummy, yummy blackberry jam." "Whoa," said Tom when he saw the bushes. "There must be 1,000,000 blackberries here." "More like 2,000,000, said Sarah. Her tummy was rumbling as she thought about all the blackberry tarts they'd be making later. The children found the spot that had the most berries. It was right beside the gate to the back field. They wondered if Mr. Brambles was going to be there too. "Mr. Brambles, are you there?" called out Sarah. "I sure am," said Mr. Brambles as he waved over the hedge, happy to be called because the children weren't in trouble for a change. "Are you two here to pick some of my blackberries?" "We sure are," said Tom, and he reached for a berry that was up high. "No, Tom," said Mr. Brambles, "not that one. It's still far too red." "I know what I need to do," said Mr. Brambles. Picking up his twig and his blackbird's feather, he flew up and tapped the red berry till it was black, shiny, and very juicy. "Delicious," said Tom as he gobbled it up. "Thank you, Mr. Brambles." "No problem at all." Suddenly, the sound of Daddy's red tractor made them all look up. Daddy and Jack were on their way to the back field. "I must be off," said Mr. Brambles. "I can't let those grown-ups see me. Anyway, the apples in the orchard need some of my magic too. You two have fun." And with that, he disappeared. Daddy and Jack had some very important work to do too. Some of the fencing in the back field had become broken and loose, and some gaps were big enough that a little sheep could wiggle through and get lost. In the bucket of the red tractor, they had everything they needed to get their work done. They had wire, nails, a big sledgehammer, and wooden posts. Daddy drove the red tractor up the hill to the top of the field. As he turned off the engine, Jack hopped out. "Don't forget the handbrake," said Jack. "We don't want the red tractor to roll down the hill." "No, we do not," said Dad. And with that, He pulled on the handbrake. Click went the lever, telling Daddy it was on correctly. Tom and Sarah waved to Daddy and Jack, and they set to work filling their buckets and their bellies. In no time at all, Daddy and Jack had the first half of the field done and mended. At this rate, we'll be done in no time, said Daddy, as they drove the tractor to the other side. As Jack hopped out, he says, don't forget the handbrake. I won't, said Daddy. Click went the handbrake. The far end of the field, where Jack and Daddy were watching, Tom was watching too. He thought Daddy and Jack were having a lot more fun, and he was getting a little bit bored of blackberry picking. Knowing that everything was safe, Tom approached the two men. Dad, he says, can I sit in the tractor and watch you fix the fence? Okay, said Dad, but don't touch a thing. I promise, said Tom, I absolutely won't. Tom sat in the seat. He looked around at all the lights and the levers and the buttons. Ooh, everything was so sparkly and exciting. Ooh, said Tom. I wonder what this does. He looked down and held a big black lever with a red button at the end. He pressed the button, click, and the lever went down. Suddenly, the tractor made a groaning sound and began to roll down the hill. The tractor, shouted Jack, the tractor! Tom must have let off the handbrake. Help, cried Tom. What do I do? What do I do? The red tractor began to pick up speed. Soon it was going too fast for Daddy and Jack to catch it. Faster and faster it went, heading straight for the bushes where Sarah was still picking blackberries. Sarah, shouted Jack. Sarah looked up, her face covered in blackberry juice. She gasped in horror as she saw the tractor zooming down the hill. Daddy and Jack running after it, their arms in the air. Posts and nails were scattered all over the field. On the back seat was sitting Tom. He was clinging on to dear life as the tractor rolled over bumps and through holes. He was sure to crash, and he was very, very frightened. There wasn't a moment to lose. Sarah knew what to do. It was definitely a time to call Mr. Brambles. She remembered the very special poem that he had told them the first night they met. Should you ever be in fear, call 3 times and I will hear. Sarah closed her eyes and said, Mr. Brambles, Mr. Brambles, Mr. Brambles. Closer and closer the tractor was getting, closer and closer. In fact, it was only a few meters away from Sarah at this time when suddenly a bolt of light flew past Sarah's eyes and straight into the tractor. Just as the tractor was about to reach Sarah, it suddenly changed direction and went toward the field gate. Sarah, cried Daddy again. What has happened? Jack couldn't believe his eyes. Who's driving that tractor? He said. I don't know, said Daddy. Maybe Tom knew how to steer it out of the way. By now the tractor was heading at great speed towards the field gate. Just as it was about to crash through, the gate suddenly swung open and the tractor rolled into the farmyard and came to a gentle stop in front of the big shed. How did that gate open? Cried Jack. I don't know, said Daddy. Maybe the wind blew it open. Daddy ran into the farmyard. He was panting all the way. Oh, Tom, he said, I told you not to touch anything. But I didn't know you knew how to steer or drive a tractor. Tom hadn't driven the tractor at all. It had been Mr. Brambles and his hedge sprite magic, but he thought it better to keep that to himself for now. As Dad lifted Tom out of the tractor and safely back on the ground, he went to help Jack to pick up all the tools and posts that were strewn all over the field. As soon as Daddy was out of sight, Mr. Brambles appeared and sat on Tom's shoulder. Whew, he says, that was a close one. You two could have been badly hurt. I know, said Tom. Oh, thank you, Mr. Brambles. Thank you so much. From now on, said Mr. Brambles, you're only allowed to play with toy tractors, not the real ones. With that, Mr. Brambles disappeared. The children picked up their buckets and their scooters and headed back home. It was time to make those yummy, yummy blackberry tarts. Later on that day, something made Mr. Brambles' nose tingle. He says, what is that delicious smell? He poked his head out through the branches of his little hedge house, and out in front of him was a golden tart. It was full to the top of delicious blackberries, and right beside it was a little card. Mr. Brambles took a lovely deep smell of that delicious blackberry tart and opened the card, which read, "To Mr. Brambles, from your friends, Tom, Sarah, and Meg the sheepdog." "Wow," said Mr. Brambles, "ain't I lucky to have such good friends?" Mr. Brambles picked up the blackberry tart. He wanted to eat his delicious treat in the autumn sun. He headed over to the farmyard, where Jack was checking over the tractor. He was making sure that no damage had been done. Mr. Brambles flew up very quietly and sat on the roof of the red tractor. He watched Jack as he scratched his head. Poor Jack, he still didn't understand how the tractor had suddenly changed direction away from Sarah and had suddenly gone through the gate without crashing through it. How had that gate suddenly opened all by itself? Said Jack. "I don't know. I saw a flying bull only last week. If you ask me, there's something magical about Riverside Farm." "Oh, what am I saying?" said Jack, laughing. "Sure, there's no such thing as magic." Sitting on the roof of the red tractor, Mr. Brambles munched happily on his delicious blackberry tart. "Oh, Jack," he says, "it's magic, all right," he said with a grin. "It's head sprite magic." So, guys, do we see why it's so dangerous to be anywhere near moving farm machinery? Those tractors are so big and so powerful. They're not safe for boys and girls to be getting close to at all. So it's always really, really important that we always keep back from working farm machinery. And if you are at the farm gate and you can see the tractor in the distance doing its work, let the farmer know that you're there by doing the very special wave. Put your hand up and the other one and wave. Big, big waves, both arms. Wave at the farmer. Always let the farmer know that you are there when they're doing their work. Well, I really hope you enjoyed today's visit to Riverside Farm. And remember to check out the other stories too in the Tales from Riverside Farm series. It's been so wonderful to have the opportunity to read the story to you today. And I want you to remember the very special AgriKids message, which is to be farm safe and to stay farm safe. Until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.